Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of League of Primos Weekly Review. That's right, Season 2, Week 2 of Lop War. We had a great fantasy week this week, a lot of close games. You will not want to miss that. A lot of hijinks this week. Will I have to do a punishment? And we check to see who's busting. What are the power rankings? And a lot more in this episode of Lop War.
Step right up, it's time to review. Your team stinks, well maybe that's you. It's L-O-P-W-R, Lop War time!
Our first game this week is one of many nail-biters this week that came down all the way to last night's game on Monday. I put the Trash from Trash Pandas versus Elham Burglars. In the Thursday through Sunday evening stretch, Elham Burglar got 20.24 from Bo Nix, 19.9 from Juwan Jennings, but a whopping 44.2 from Imran St. Brown as he mollywopped the Bears 52-21. I got 26.3 from Lamar Jackson, 19.4 from Jahmyr Gibbs, who helped the Lions mollywop the Bears 52-21. This led to me needing combined 22.5 points from Kyle, the hypothetical GOAT Pitts, and rookie Emeka Egbuka. Pitts has a decent game. He had 7.7, which means I only needed 14.8 from Egbuka to win. He had 12.9 through the first half, meaning you only need 1.9 for the win. He proceeded to get 1 target the entire second half. This one. And that drop stopped my heart into tiny, tiny size pieces as Daniel wins 123.34 to 121.4. This now drops me to 1-9 in the last 10 games that are decided under 8 points, which is almost as bad as the Bears being 1-12 in their last 13 games. Our next game was just as close as Bin Laden's Bombers with the bounce back against the Red Lobster Cheddar Biscuits, also looking for their first win of the season. Red Lobster did not go with the strat to start suspended Rashid Rice. Good on you. But they got great scoring, 21.2 from Ramondre Stevenson, 26.3 from another Patriot, Drake May, and then 26.8 from Bijan Robinson. Bin Laden looking not to be the lowest scorer again. Got 21 from McMillan from the Panthers. Tetris McMillan, I have no idea. 15 from the Ravens D, and a whopping 42.7 from Malik Neighbors. But the real decision maker, Bin Laden's last player, went explosive as Bucky Irving on the Buccaneers on the game-winning drive caught 4 receptions for 39 yards on that drive alone, finishing with 18.1. And Ladd McConkey could not get it done, scoring only 9.8 in the final game of the week. And the final score, 133.74 to 130.6, only a 3.1 difference. We then have the Big Tree City Big Bears versus Branditos Banditos. They are also looking for their first wins as well. Brandon got 12 from the Bills D, 15 from T. Higgins and Zay Flowers, 17 from Saquon, and an amazing 38.96 from Jared Goff. Nick got 17 from former Bears receiver Keenan Allen, 22.7 from CMC, but an incredible 33.2 from Wendell Robinson. However, he got negative 3 points from the Giants defense, which made this a close one for sure. However, that did not matter because he would win by 13. Big Tree City Big Bears win 140.24 to 126.86. We then have the Abe Lincoln Russian Trombones versus Dracula B-Flow. Simi got 12 from his kicker, Boswell from the Pittsburgh Steelers, 15.5 from J.K. Dobbins, 26.2 from Devon A-Chain, and then a whopping 29.4 from Tyler Kraft from the Packers. Abe Lincoln answered back, however, with 22 from Patty Mahomes, and a pair of 25 from Cowboys players Javonte Williams and CeeDee Lamb. However, Abe Lincoln could not slay this vampire as Dracula B-Flow wins 148.2 to 122.38.
This shit ain't nothing to me, man. My money longer than James Cameron.
And then we had another really close game. However, it was a very lackluster one, as this one ended with both of our 2 lowest scoring players of the week. So who sucked the least this week? We had Lauren Optimum Team versus the Welcome to Dago. He changed his name again. Tom Hanks' Hungry Hippos. Christian now has more team names this season than the Bears have franchise Super Bowl appearances. So good on you, Christian. Lauren got 11.82 from Haley Steinfeld's husband, 16 from Cooper Kupp, and 21.9 from Tyreek Hill. Christian only got 3.98 from Bears legend Justin Fields, and then 2.3 from Aaron Jones, who are both now injured. However, he got 15.9 from Juwan Jennings and 26.5 from Jonathan Taylor, besting Lauren by 8.36 points, 107.48 to 99.12. And although he was the highest scores person last week, let me remind you that last year he finished the season with the league's lowest amount of points scored against, meaning his opponents scored the least amount when they played him. Just saying, happens again. But regardless, a win is a win, and he does start the season 2-0. The next game was Kevin's awesome Kevin Array versus the Hogwarts Wizards, looking to both stay away from being 0-2 after both being projected in the top 3 to start this year. Allison scored 17.5 from Warren, 17.4 from Debo, 17.8 from Jaylen Waddle, and then an amazing 33.5 from James Cook. But then Gino only got her 3.2 points after throwing 3 picks. How would Kevin respond? Well, he got 16.9 from ETM, 14 from his kicker, and a whopping 41.5 from Jamar Chase, who had to use Browning for that. But this was not enough as Allison wins 133.1 to 123.62. Another double-digit decided game. Single digit. I can't count. And this last game turned out to be a great one, actually. The returning Dimitri and almost all-stars versus our reigning champion and title belt holder, Kevin James hot. Kevin James was hot as he scored 25.8 from Kenneth Walker, 23.3 from Smith and Jigba, 23.8 from Jameson Williams, 20.78 from Justin Herbert, and then 27.6 from Puka Nacua. However, Dimitri had the answers this week. 19.7 from Jaden Daniels, 18.7 from Chubby Hubby, 16.8 from Cowboys tight end Ferguson, 17.8 from George I Want to Fight You Pickens, 16 from the Seahawks defense, and then a whopping 36.8 from Roma Dunze in the Bears' 52-21 loss to the Lions, and then 23 from kicker Brandon Aubrey from the Cowboys. Dimitri wins this one 170.5 to 150.68. An absolute amazing game. They were actually our 2 highest scorers this week. And it's always devastating to be the second highest scorer in the week and then having the loss. You played the best player. You can't do anything about that. But what about that? Dimitri coming back and starting off 2-0 this year. How will that shake up our power rankings? You'll have to find out later. And then obviously gets us into our highest and lowest scores. Like I just said, Dimitri, the highest scorer of the week, 170.5. I asked him what he had to say like I always do, and he gave me a paragraph. I'm out here treating fantasy like I play Fortnite, pressing random buttons and still cooked you all. Imagine studying stats, reading articles, and watching games every week just to lose to me. Embarrassing. Also, I love you, Alma. I did all for you, my queen. Dimitri's lonely, but he's winning. Let's start the music.
Yeah, she's got me in a headlock, I ain't hearing no bell. The demon in your dreams, raising chaos in hell. With every ring entrance, I'm sinking deeper down in a pool of her sweat. Yeah, I'd probably drown. Call me Roman, cause I'll let her take the reins. Inject that sweat, feel it coursing through my veins. I'd max out credit cards, I'd go into debt. And sell my left kidney for that Rhea Ripley matte sweat.
That's going to get us into our lowest score. And no, it's definitely not dark outside. And I'm definitely not wearing a hat or anything because it's now 8:45 p.m. when I filmed at 1 o'clock today because I was waiting for a final response. But I messaged Lauren and I said, hey, Lauren, you're the lowest score. What do you have to say? And she said, it seems like her celebrity relationship isn't playing up to its potential and that could be harming her players. And I said, that's very interesting because you didn't draft one, but you drafted 2 famous relationships. And she said, yeah, she knows, and she did it on purpose. And she was actually trying to play for that like 3rd grade animalistic, response to your crush watching you play sports in the playground, hoping that would give them some more motivation, which I find interesting as, a male who their crush used to watch them play at the 3rd grade playground. And, I said, that's very interesting. I hope that works out for you. She said, it won't. To which I responded, she started off 0-5 last year and almost made the playoffs. And she said, that's right. And hopefully that's what happens this year. But unfortunately, we're going to have to do it to you, Lauren. Play the music. This gets us into our wheel of torture, but first, my punishments. I lost this week, which means if I lost, my fantasy line would be decided by ChatGPT, and I would have ChatGPT pick the worst available lineup. And here's how that turned out. Now I'm telling ChatGPT I lost a fantasy weekend. Now for a punishment, ChatGPT must pick the worst possible lineup you think for upcoming week. I've told them all my players, and then I've told them what kind of league we run, what our positions are. So let me generate what they think I should start next week. Oof, sorry for the L this week, but hey, fantasy's all about the highs and the humiliation, right? Since you're doing a punchline, I'll carefully choose the worst possible starting lineup from your roster based on current role matchup, recent performance, health, and with a goal to score as few points as possible. Jeez, thanks. All right, so I will be starting Trevor Lawrence, Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs, Amika Ibuka, Keishon Butte, Travis Hunter, Hollywood Brown, Kyle Pitts, Harrison Butker, and the Lions defense. Not terrible. The only thing I do have to worry about, I guess, is the Miles Sanders pick here. Butte's not doing too bad. That may not be scary. I'm not sure about the 2A player here. Hollywood Brown, then obviously having to use Kyle Pitts as my main tight end. That's going to be a kicker there. And after that now means that I must see what happens if I do lose this week. We have the wheel ready to spin. So here we go. And if I lose this week, I will have to... No! Another name change. I'm going to be as worse as Christian if I lose. All right. Well, I will have to change my name again, and the winner of my game will decide. So I believe that's Christian. That's unfortunate. If I lose, Christian gets to choose my name this week. We'll see what brings us into this year's news segment, Who Busted?
About to bust.
A game where I say which players busted this week and what their projections for the year and see who drafted the bust in the first round. So Kevin's pick, Jamar Chase, skyrocketed in week 2. He was projected 21.68, but scored 41.5, a net of plus 19.82, which gives him a big boom this week, and actually jumped him from wide receiver 74 to wide receiver 8. He is now plus 2.72 on the year. Brandon Saquon Barkley was projected 20.92, scored 17.4, not too bad, negative 3.52 this week. This dropped him, though, from RB8 to RB10, and he's now a negative 6.02 projection on the year. Lauren picked Haley Steinfeld's husband, Josh Allen, who's projected 23.58 this week, but only scored 11.82 and a negative 11.69 this week, which is a definite bust this week. This dropped Allen from QB1 to QB3 and now to a plus 8.55 off of projection. Jesse got Bajan, who continues to go off with his huge high usage, projected 19.83, scored 26.8, which moved him to plus 19.8 on a season projection and actually moved him from running back 2 to now running back 1. We have CMC for Nick, who stays high with his projections, projected 24.32, scored 22.7, moving him to negative 3.62 on the season. However, that still jumped him from running back 5 to running back 4 this year. Not too bad at all. Allison drafted Justin Jefferson, who's projected 21.62, but only managed to score 11.1, a negative 10.52, another big bust. This makes him a negative 17.32 projection total, and he fell from wide receiver 21 to wide receiver 29 this week. Who knows how that's going to do? J.J. McCarthy is now injured, and now Carson Wentz is coming back in. That actually, I don't know, that may actually make him get some more targets there. Wentz is a gunslinger, so we'll see how that works out. Next is my player, Jahmyr Gibbs, who's projected 19.57 and scored 19.4, which is about as dead on as you can get. That's a negative 0.17 projection there, not too bad at all. This moves him to a negative 4.74 on the season, but it moved him from running back 13 to running back 11 this week, so that's not too bad. Nick has CeeDee Lamb, who again played really well, projected 20.63, scored 25.2 to move him up plus 6.93 on the yearly projection, and moved him from wide receiver 7 to wide receiver 5. We have Light Christian as Malik Neighbors, who went off as well, projected 20.16 and scored 42.7 for a plus 22.54 difference. Another boom this week.
If I had a nickel for every LSU receiver who boomed this week, I'd have 2 nickels. Which is not a lot, but it's odd that it happened twice.
This moved him from wide receiver 29 to wide receiver 2, a massive leap this week. Dylan had Puka Nakua, who scored was projected 21.75 and scored 27.6, my bad, putting him at a yearly total of plus 12.21 and moved him from wide receiver 3 to wide receiver 1. Daniel has Amon-Ra St. Brown's projected 18.25 and scored 14.2 as the Bears lost 21-52 to the Lions. That's a plus 25.95 on the week. And another massive boom this week. This brings him up to a plus 16.2 in projection on the year and moving from wide receiver 47 to wide receiver 3. A giant leap there. Dark Christian has rookie Ashton Gianti, who, rookies are pretty hard to predict. You get no NFL experience from that, but he projected as 19.24 and only managed to score 7.4, a negative 11.84, another bust this week. It's crazy that they drafted a workhorse for the Raiders there and refused to let him work, don't give him the ball, and would rather Geno throw 100 times and throw multiple picks in the game. This puts Gianti at negative 19.08 this season and moves from running back 24 to running back 27. I mean, that's busting pretty hard. You're going to have to change that, Gianti. Simi has Devon Achane, who's projected 20.48, scored 26.2. Not a boom, but a really good game this week. Moves him up to a plus 1.71 on the year and from running back 6 to running back 5. And then finally, we have Jaden Daniels from Almost All-Stars projected 23.04 and scored 19.7, which is a decent game. This makes him go from negative 6.26 on the season and moved him up from QB 14 to QB 11. I know there's still a lot of season left, but now there's some people who maybe want to get a little worried to see if they've truly busted this year. So one thing I like to do is our power rankings. So I didn't do them last week, so let's do them this week. Here are the updated ESPN power rankings for our team. I'll also mention where we started in the year after the draft. At number 14 is Lauren's Optimum team, who started at 11. 13, Red Lobster Cheddar Biscuits, who started at 12. 12, Kevin's Awesome team, who started at 3, a very far drop. And then another far drop, Banditos at 11, who started at 1. We then have at number 10, Big Tree City Big Bears, who jumped after it started at 13. At number 9 is Bin Laden's Bombers, who started at 6. That's nice. That's not. And then we have 8. I put the Trash and Trash Pandas, myself, who started at 5, so I fell that 3 spots. At 7, Abe Lincoln's Retro Trombones, who, believe it or not, started at 7. Way to be mid. That's called consistency. You got to like it there. Kevin James Hot is at 6, who started at 9. Now that's nice. And then we have Hogwarts Wizards, who was 5 right now, who started at 2. At the number 4 spot, however, Almost All-Stars. They started in dead last in the 14th spot, but after 2 wins and leading the league in scoring last week, moves all the way up from 14 to 4. Way to go, Dimitri. Number 3, we have Dark Christian. I refuse to call you by your team name right now because I don't know which team you're going to go with. But you started at 8th, you're at 3. Congratulations. At number 2, we have El Hamburglar Daniel, who started at 4. You stayed up in the top league, and you're still playing consistent, so good on you. And then at number 1, an enormously shocking twist, a giant surprise here. We got Dracula B-Flow, Simi. After starting in 10th to begin the season, he is now at number 1. And that's absolutely amazing. Congratulations to you right there. Maybe it's just the Dracula Flow stuff, or maybe it's, you're actually changing your lineups. But that's absolutely amazing. We'll see how those things shake up after this week. And finally, this gets us into this week of games. We have I Put the Trash and Trash Pandas versus whatever Christian's team name is going to be this week. Should be a good matchup. We then have Dracula B-Flow versus Banditos. One looking to stay undefeated, the other one looking for their first win. Then we have Lawrence Optimum team versus Red Lobster Cheddar Biscuits. Both teams looking to get their first win of the season. We have Kevin James Hot versus Bin Laden Bombers, a 1v1 matchup here. We know how Kevin James does with terrorists. We then have El Hamburglar versus the Big Tree City Big Bears. And then we have Kevin's Awesome Kevin Array versus Almost All-Stars. Can Dimitri back up his smack talk, saying that, oh, you guys pay attention to the games and still lose? We'll see how he goes there. Will he stay undefeated? And then finally gets us into our game of the week. We have Hogwarts Wizards versus Abe Lincoln's Rusty Trombones. Should be a good matchup. They're both 1-1 right now, but both also very good teams. So thank you again for watching today's Lop War. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to watch the waiver wire. Ignore Christian's name changes and team trades. It's whatever. And I hope to see you all in the next Lop War.
For every game, if the Bears lose, I'll run them out for every single point they lose by.
It's all mind over matter, man.
It don't matter who the we playing.
My team
bro. They are just cooking us, bro.
Get over here!
Step ski!